Mary Henderson, how the heck are you?
I'm great, Andy. How the heck are you?
I am doing good. All right. This is my first interview. I'm excited about this, Mary, because we're doing this interview. It's a Tuesday, and it's 3:09 my time on a Tuesday. But what time is it for you in Melbourne, Australia?
It's 7:09 Wednesday, my time.
It's rare I get to interview somebody who's actually on another day than I am.
Yeah, I know. Isn't
the
that cool?
The beauty of technology, though, today, right?
Oh,
That
we're
gives
so
us a
lucky.
chance to do this. So, Mary,
Absolutely.
for the audience listening in that has no idea who Mary Henderson is, just take a minute or two to kind of introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and where you live and some of your interests.
Okay, so I specialize in personal branding. I commercialize personal brands, and typically I work with coaches, consultants, business owners, and I help them digitalize their knowledge into an online business, and help them become an authority by using social media to position themselves as the go-to person. And I live in Melbourne, Australia. I have 2 children. I'm married. And my hobby, actually, believe it or not, Andy, is actually cooking. I love cooking. Actually, I'm like a real, like a full-on chef type of a cook. You know, I cook beautiful cakes and like really full-on, immersed in the creativity of it. Um, and I do a lot of reading. Like, I love reading. So in my spare time, you'll always find me on Kindle, on an Audible book, or an actual book in my hand. And I think that that's very important to keep my mind healthy. So that's a little bit
Well, and
about me.
I always say a rule of thumb to be on this podcast, Mary, is you've got to be abundant mindset thinker. You're definitely that. And
Yes,
just the constant reading, it tells me you are also a constant striver of growth, which is great.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And I hope not, because you and I think are both, we like the art of storytelling. I'm going to figure out how we can find a way to create an analogy around cooking and personal branding. And I bet you already got one.
I do, I think.
Okay, perfect. Well, here's where I want to start with this. So if you just listened in, you heard Mary introduce herself. She is all things personal branding. Very, very, very good at it. It's unbelievable what she can do to help people create their personal brand as a coach, as a consultant. What I love about your branding, Mary, is you got to end from a beginning to an end solution. We'll get into that in a little bit. But here's where I want to start. You actually, at one time, were in corporate sales. And one thing that you accomplished, if I have it right, you helped an organization in Australia go from 4 million in sales to 54 million in 48 months.
Correct.
Which is ridiculous. But you actually brought personal branding to the corporate world, which is almost unheard of. Would you mind sharing that story?
Absolutely, Andy. And can I just remind everyone that's listening to this all happened back in 2001. Okay, so we are not talking about personal branding, under the banner of LinkedIn or social media, as, it's loosely promoted today as a LinkedIn profile, or it's your authenticity or things of that nature. Back in 2001, nobody knew what personal branding was. I happened to come face to face with this idea of personal branding because of an experience that I had with a client. I come from the tech industry in sales, and I had this face-to-face experience and realized there and then, oh my God, if I can solve this complex problem, and I will, the tenacious Mary stepped in and said, you will find a solution. And I thought I could actually build an entire brand around Mary and also the problem that I can solve. So that was before I had my sales team. And I did that, Andy. I actually went on, I was so driven to create a brand for myself because I knew what it could do. I knew that I could become a specialist. I knew that I would be seen. I knew that I would be heard. And I also knew that I could be seen and heard on a global scale through our clients, because they all had relationships with vendors on a global scale. And remember, back then we had no social media. Okay, Let's just be very clear. So I started this whole process without social media. Then I was headhunted because now I'm a brand by an American multinational, and that changed the trajectory of my life. And what happened is that I was given this super senior role, managing Asia Pacific. The company had just come to Australia, and they had acquired a small business who had a very strong relationship with one of the largest retailers here. So it started as a $4 million business. And then I came on board after 3 sales directors tried to actually grow the business, no success. So I walked in and they said, what do we need to do to actually build this business? And I said, first of all, we need a full sales team, that can manage lots of different niches. And I need you to support me financially to be able to do that. So they gave me a massive budget. I built this amazing team. And I said, but there's one more thing I need. I need to get rid of job descriptions and I need to get rid of job titles. And they were like, no, we don't do that. And I said, oh, no, but you will do that if you want me to build your business from 4 million. And I knew, Andy, that if I could position every one of my salespeople as specialists, right? Specialists. Okay, this is different to a job title. So what's the point of having 35 business development managers? What separates them? Nothing. But now I had 35 specialists. One was a specialist in networking. The other was a specialist in peripherals. So that I had all these specialists in my business that were managing different business units or different business silos. And so that made people feel really good. And the way I did that is that we had a sales conference that we kicked off the start of my position in that company with the sales conference. I got all my team together and we sat down in a circle, and I wanted to know about every single person. I wanted to know what their gifts were. I wanted to know what their values were. I wanted to know what they thought they were good at. I wanted to know about their family, everything. I wanted to know what their hobbies were. And I took copious amounts of note. And at the end of that sales conference, I looked at these people and I could see where their strengths were, where their weaknesses were, what their passions were. And I matched each individual to a portfolio. Okay. So the fashionista guy was matched to the fashionista client. So I matched them all. And then I gave them full permission. And I said, when you come to work, you must be unapologetically yourself. You are not a job title. You are not a box. You are not a robot. You are not a human robot. You're human. Act human, yes. Be emotional, give it all you've got. Not one person left the organization during my tenure. Not one in my team. Because they would say to me, Andy, Mary, I love coming to work because I could be myself. And I am driven by success. Like, that is my absolute driver. So when clients work with me, I'm just driven by their success. That's what motivates me. So naturally, I was driven by my success with my sales team so that I wanted them to win. Andy, all my sales team were earning 6 figures, even the 25-year-olds.
Wow. That's, what you just said speaks to my heart, because it wasn't at a corporate setting, Mary, but when Amy and I moved out to Colorado 6 years ago, I tell this story a lot. I went to work for an insurance agency that I was their only sales rep. They didn't have any marketing game plan, and I was now in a market where nobody knew who I was. And it was there where I realized I have to grow a personal brand. Literally, no one knows who I am. And if you don't have a personal brand, you're irrelevant, right?
That's right.
And I also truly believe that humans buy from humans. They do not buy from logos on business cards. And so for you to be able to bring that personal branding to a corporate setting is absolutely phenomenal. Now, I did it in 2014, or at least started that journey. Let's fast forward. That was 2001.
Yeah.
It's so much easier now to create a personal brand, isn't it? But at the same time, it's extremely dangerous.
Yes.
So let's talk about the ease of which you can create a brand online, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Where do you see people today going wrong with trying to create that aura, that personal brand on social media?
Well, it's really, really obvious to me that so many people want fame and fortune. Like, they actually want to be famous. And I think that most people want that. They want the easy route. They want to cut corners, and I see people on posts, hey, I'm here to build a community. Just follow me, and I'm like, no, don't just follow me. Like, I don't want anyone to follow me because I'm building a very, very specific tribe. So what we need to do is we need to discern that there's personal branding and there's personal branding. Now, did you hear how I started introducing myself? I said I commercialize personal brands. There's a big difference, okay? You can't build a personal brand. It doesn't exist. Like, what are you building? And somebody said to me only a month ago, hey, such and such helped me with my personal brand, and I've done that really enthusiastically. And I'm like, that's great, but what are you going to do with it now? And they're like, and I'm like, exactly, that's my point. If it can't be commercialized, it's just another shiny object. So I think a lot of people don't understand that a personal brand is just a business. That's it. You are the business. Like, let's get real here. Let's simplify. Take away all of the shiny stuff and let's get to its core. What is a personal brand? In today's market, it is a business. It's the one human being that has become the business. That's it. It's really simple. But this whole notion around fame, that's actually quite sad as far as I'm concerned.
Do you think part of that has to do with the fact that people have seen certain companies or just people in general, personal brands in general, blow up overnight, so that the goal is no longer to be targeted about your social media presence, your branding, to make sure it's speaking to your target audience. And now everybody's just focused on trying to grow that next $1 billion business, to be famous, to be wealthy, to be rich. Do you think that's where people are going wrong? Is they're just now focused on the massive wins because they've seen others do it on social media?
Well, the thing is that let's look at those people that have blown up overnight. I mean, they have to keep that momentum going.
Yes.
So most of them can't. So you might have a video that may go viral, but one video doesn't cut it, or one piece of content doesn't cut it, or one keynote on a stage doesn't cut it. This is an ongoing process. This is daily. So you can't build a brand overnight because of one video or one post. That person is desperately wanting fame. You've got to keep that momentum up. And it's not just that, Andy. There's a difference between a post blowing up overnight and suddenly it's gone viral and everybody knows you, versus somebody who wants to be known as the go-to person for their area of specialization. Two different scenarios, right? I don't work with that scenario of people who want to go viral and become famous. I have no interest in that at all. And the reason for that is because my tribe of people that I work with, they are super smart. They have exceeded the 10, 15,000 hour rule of working in their specialization. And I need that depth of currency to actually help them commercialize their brand. Otherwise, I'm just working with air. I've worked with two people, in my coaching business, that have wanted to become famous only. And it's a disaster. It's a really big disaster, and you don't realize until the aftermath. You look back and you go, what was all that about? Like, what just happened? And then what it does, Andy, it impacts my brain because, I haven't delivered, on my promise. But my promise is that at the end of the journey with me, you will have all the tools in place and implemented for you to start becoming known as the go-to person. And I've got clients that are in micro niches, and they are killing it right now. I mean, killing it. And so it works. The way that I run my personal branding, my personal branding approach, is not about getting someone famous overnight. It's about making that person memorable, believable, trustable, so that they can become the go-to person over time. And my game is not an overnight game. My game is like the tortoise and the hare. I'm the tortoise. That's the game. That's the lane I'm in. I'm not in the lane where the hare is. The hare just wants it overnight. The tortoise takes its time, it observes, it looks around, it absorbs the data, it extracts the data, it makes sense of the data, it does something with the data. So we keep moving along. We still get to the finish line, but the difference is that we have accumulated a lot of trials and tribulations. We've tested, we've spoken to a lot of people, we've connected with a lot of people. We're understanding our target audience so intimately so that our content is made for them. Big difference.
I'm hugging the laptop right now that we're doing this interview on, because what you just said is the key to winning in business today. Consistency.
Yes.
It's a long game. And you and I were talking offline, and two things that I observe on LinkedIn mainly is when I see people posting, literally taking the time to make a post about telling us how many followers they have, immediately I know what that individual's motive is. And number two, you bring up a really good point. You've worked with a couple of people in your coaching business that just wanted to become famous. I feel like I'm a pretty good observer on social media of others' content. And the second you make it your motive to be famous, you can see the change in the tone. You can see the change in the content.
Exactly.
And I think what we're starting to realize in the social media world is you're not fooling anybody.
No, you're not. And it actually annoys people. And, it may not annoy the people that they're associated with, but that's the game that they're in. Actually, they're in a game of manipulation, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because they're after people following them as though they're the prodigal son and they're going to, make us all walk on water, like, I'll turn water into wine. Like, really? So the thing is that's actually, to me, it's like it's this passive aggressive behavior behind the scenes. That's what I see. And the thing is with social media, if you're going on there and you're creating just random content, good luck to you. But I don't know how far that gets you.
Correct. And instead of turning wine into water into wine, let's talk about turning business professionals into personal brands. You use the word authority a lot, which I love. In fact, you have a magazine called Authority 5.0 where you highlight some amazing personal brands.
Yep.
Mary, what does the word authority mean to you?
It means exactly what I just said. It means the person who actually owns that space. They are the go-to person. They live, eat, and breathe it. And they've done it for so long that it's not just people on social media that know these people as the go-to person. It's industry that actually know these people as the go-to person. It's, it's their niche, their industry, and it's beyond their colleagues. It's a much, much, much broader range of people that now have become familiar with that individual as the person that they would go to get advice from for that specific topic. That for me that's the game I play. That they're the people that I want to be around.
That's awesome.
My circle of influence are exactly those people. They are the go-to people in their area of expertise or their specialization. I don't even like using the word expertise, but their specialization, they've become the authority in that specialization, not necessarily online, more offline. I've got in my circle of influence, one guy who's just works with Fortune 500 boards, and no one knows him on social media, but everyone knows him at board level. He's the guy that goes in and is the crisis guy. So, so these people to me are authorities, and you've probably noticed that a lot of the people I showcase in my magazine, they're not even people they're not on LinkedIn. And if they are, they don't have a high profile, but I purposefully do that because it also is a reflection of me, Andy, and the people that I like to associate with. And I think that's the message in the magazine.
And that's such a good point too, is what I'm hearing you say, Mary, and it's so true, is what would you rather have on social media? 15,000 followers that mean nothing, that's air? Or would you rather have 1,000 or 1,500 of high quality followers that are doing business with you?
Exactly.
Allow you to be the authority in your niche. And I think it's important to understand you use the word niches a lot.
Yes, I do.
It's very okay to go narrow. It's very okay to
Oh,
become that go-to authority
absolutely.
in a very narrow market.
100%. And I think that that's so powerful. And it's not, we're not talking about niches from the standpoint of the digital gurus,
Yeah.
find a niche, go and understand what their pain points are and then build a business around that. The people I work with, they don't do that. They already understand their niche. They've been immersed in it
Yep.
for 15, 20, 30 years. They already get it.
Yep.
They understand the nuances, the language, the emotions, the feeling, the story, all of everything everything associated with that niche, they understand. So it's a really big difference. And also, I think that the thing with the followers, if I may just interject, the thing with followers, Andy, today is that there are so many bots that are following people.
Yep.
Hello, so if you have a look at your followers, you can actually see the bots following you with people who've got no followers themselves. Well, what value do the robots have to my brand? They don't. There's no value at all.
Yeah. So let's start diving into your specific. I'm not going to use the word expertise, but your specific niche. And let's start talking about, okay, somebody's listening right now. I love the fact that you said a personal brand is a business, because I also believe once you open your mouth, you're sharing your personal brand with the world. If somebody's at that point, they're like, okay, Mary, I get it. I need to take this seriously. I need to start creating a true personal brand that is my business. What are some mistakes that person should avoid? Number one, we've already talked about the overnight success. It doesn't happen. But then let's also dive into what are some 1 or 2 very simple steps at the beginning somebody can take, because I know you have a very, very thorough coaching program that helps people walk this from A to Z. What are maybe the first 1 or 2 steps somebody could take to really start lasering in on that personal or commercializing that personal brand? So mistakes to avoid, a couple mistakes to avoid, and then a couple steps to start taking your personal brand and commercializing it.
I think that what most people do when it comes to personal branding is that they're trying to, most of them go to lead generation. So they want to start selling something, and then they think that by doing that they will become a personal brand. So and that to me is the danger zone. That's where most people go wrong, and then they give up on their dream of becoming a coach or a consultant or a business owner, or even scaling their coaching or consulting business. So you can't start there. In personal branding, I think the most important question we should be asking ourselves is not what I want to look like on LinkedIn, but rather what problem can I really solve? Like, what can I really solve? Because that's the starting point, Andy. If you can't solve a problem, you ain't going to be a brand. You're nothing. When I say you're nothing, I don't mean as a human. I mean as a brand. You're nothing as a brand because it's empty. And you've heard me say this a lot of times on social media. Empty cans make most noises, which is what social media is made up of. I want to be famous. I want to be famous. I want to. But the thing about personal branding is that you have to be able to solve a problem first. That's how you commercialize it. That moves you into the right direction. You have to understand what you look like in your natural state of being. Because have you noticed that a lot of the influencers are trying to copy other influencers?
Yeah.
So, but then they talk about authenticity, right? So the thing is that this is a double-edged sword. We have to understand what we look like in our natural state of being, so that if we are going to show up on social media, you've someone like myself, I'm unapologetically myself. I'll say what I want to say, and it doesn't suit everybody. Believe you me, I've posted things on social media that's ruffled a lot of feathers, and like people have it went viral, but 20 or 30% of the people that were commenting were toxic haters. So the thing is that there's a fine line here. But on the other hand, that was me. That I truly believed in that.
Yep.
But not everyone resonates with that. So I think that we've got to be really, really mindful of what we want to, how we want to show up, what we want people to know us for, and what problem we want to solve. And the other thing I may just add here, Andy, is that if you are wanting to build a personal brand and you're not prepared to build content that's strategic and deliberate, but you just want to curate other people's content because you know it'll get you 500 likes, that's not personal branding at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Post. I always say post from the heart. Don't post for the metrics. And
Exactly.
I think, you know, it's obvious with your content on social media that everything that comes out of your mouth, whether it's written, audio, video, is coming right from here, right from the heart.
Absolutely.
And I think that's so important. No, so I want to give you a chance to dive into a little bit about your coaching, if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
You've got a program called Lights, Camera, Action.
Yep.
And
I do.
so, what's that?
It's right behind me.
Oh, there you go. Branding, folks, personal branding. Take notes. And by the way, it was you and Renelle that inspired this. So,
Important.
so tell us a little bit about that program. Who is it for? How do you help? What problem do you solve? And how are people getting results with you?
Yeah. So it's people who are ready and super serious about digitalizing their knowledge. So if you've got 10, 15, 20 years experience in an area and you are ready to digitalize your knowledge, you're ready to become a coach or a consultant or a business owner.
Yep.
You don't know where to start. So for me, it really is about taking that knowledge and totally digitalizing it and creating an online environment.
Cool.
It's also for people who already are coaches and consultants, and they've been running a consulting business for 5-10 years, but they want to digitalize it, or they want to scale. They don't understand how to build a brand. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows that they exist. They're the world's best kept secret. And the other people are business owners who actually own professional services businesses like accounting firms, lawyers, anyone in that space, in the professional services space, again, who also want to digitalize their knowledge and bring a coaching arm in their business. That's really exciting, that space. And what we do is that I have a methodology that is essentially a system that has been built on the premise of frameworks. There are a number of frameworks, they all link together. And we do start at the personal branding part, which essentially builds the foundation. And that foundation is connected to all of their communication touch points. That becomes the baseline. It's like when you're building a house, you have to build the foundation first. Well, from my standpoint, the personal branding aspect is really critical because we're building that foundation first. We're understanding in that part of the process, not just the problem you can solve, but who is it that you're serving? And what does your lane actually look like? We're bringing in the business elements into the personal branding part, because as far as I'm concerned, if you can't answer those fundamental business questions as part of your brand, then you're not going to go very far. I can't help anybody that doesn't actually have that level of experience. Then we move into building the digital assets, which is part 2. And that's where the digitalization part comes into it. We're building their online courses, or now we're building learning management systems. We're really sophisticated, online courses. We're building their sales funnels, their lead magnets, their partner strategies. All of these moving parts that have to be implemented, Andy, are implemented. Their website. So by the time they finish in around the 8th to 10th week, they've already implemented their sales funnels, their lead magnets, their website, the online course structure is developed. They're building their content wheel, which is a big part of this, for social media. And then we move into part 3, which is social selling. And that's where we generate leads, predominantly using LinkedIn. I'm also using my same strategy on Instagram, and that's working really, really well. So, but predominantly we focus on LinkedIn because there's a whole strategy around LinkedIn beyond just content. And I think that you understand my position on LinkedIn. I think I'm pretty obvious that I'm there to build a network. I'm there to build my business, and so are all my clients. Exactly. And then the 4th part is the actual coaching, which is what glues it all together. The coaching part glues the whole system together. What I'm teaching people to do, Andy, is to build a business based on a tried and tested methodology, so that when they're actually digitalizing their knowledge into an online environment, which is a system that they're developing based on a methodology, they're designing their own frameworks. My goal is that they have built a digital asset. For example, I can sell my online course today to any investor without Mary. Anyone could take it and actually and then implement it in their organization and go for it. I can just do some high-level training, but the assets in that online course can be taken without Mary. It does not require me, the human, to actually facilitate that. That's what I'm designing with my clients. We're designing systems.
That's really important you said that, because I won't lie. I mean, when I started my coaching business, I looked at just the coaching component. And then I hit a point where I was like, okay, what is it I'm actually teaching? What am I coaching? And you have to create some sort of process that takes people from where they are today that they do not like to the life after working with you, which is success. And I love what you just said. By digitalizing that process and having those online digital assets, that's how your business literally can be sold without having you be there. And I think that's where a lot of coaches struggle right now. And again, I even raised my hand in the past. I struggle with that.
It has to be automated. So we're building fully automated businesses.
That's awesome.
And that makes a huge difference. It takes the pressure away from. So once your business is up and running, you've got to take the pressure away, because your most valuable currency is time, and that time needs to be spent in creativity. It needs to be spent in meetings, Zoom calls. I have 4 or 5 Zoom calls a day, so I need that time, not just to have a conversation, but I've got to think. I need thinking time. Creative time. I can't be the best version of myself if I don't have that time. So it's really important that the system is built so it's solid.
Well, and I love what you said too. Once it's digitalized, it's an asset where you become even the biggest asset is the coaching, the accountability piece, right? Exactly. There still comes a point where they need your help. And that's where your coaching goes to a whole different level, is now you're there to be that one-on-one accountability partner, hand-holding to make sure they do it appropriately. I love that. So as we wrap this up, Mary, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on here. This conversation has been awesome. What advice would you give somebody out there right now who does know that they need to start focusing on commercializing their personal brand? But let's be honest, they're stuck in a lot of the mindset our society is today. They're afraid to put themselves out there. They're maybe a little afraid of judgment, a little afraid of what people might think when they attempt to be themselves, be human. What would you say to that person right now?
I think that you've just got to, I think the most important thing about social media or putting yourself out there is really, really think about what that lane looks like for you. Because posting random things, what is dangerous is when all these personal branding gurus, are online and they'll share a video and say, now, because personal branding is so important, all you need to do is create a video and put yourself out there. The first step is the most important. Now, I agree with that. However, 99% of people that do that are online, and the first line is, Joe Blogs challenged me to do my first video, and so I'm online, I'm doing my first video, and what I want to talk about today is blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, who are you? Why would I believe you? Why are you behind the camera, hiding behind the camera in your car? They're all done in the car, so nobody can see them. Okay, I understand that. I get that, no problem. But my message around that is that you really need to be very clear on what your lane looks like, and then get on social media. No one will judge you if you've got something of value to bring to the table. This is the key word. You have to have value so people can stop and listen.
Well,
otherwise,
and that's
like everyone else.
That's so true, because I see it so much too, where you've got the message. What is your message for your specific target audience? And then the marketing that follows. And I see so many try to skip to the marketing, and they totally forget about what is the actual message we're trying to say to our ideal target. Because the best marketing in the world with a crap message equals a crap message.
And there's so many of them. That's the other problem.
Yeah. So
many.
Go ahead. You're a reader. I want to end with this. This is the surprise question I didn't tell you I was going to ask. Right now, what book are you reading? And if you could recommend one book to somebody, what would you recommend right now?
Well, I have to recommend The Iconic. I don't know if you've read that book, but
I have not.
Absolutely gold. It's amazing. I just love it. Now, the books that I read are probably not the books that most people would read, because the books that I read you can't even find in stores. But this is the one that I'm reading right now, and I'm really excited by it. It's called A Theory and Treatment of Your Personality. So I don't know. I'm just
And if you're just listening in and not watching the video, just be warned, that's a thick book there.
these are the type of books that I read, Andy. Like, this is nothing compared to what I can show you, but this is a really interesting one. So it really is it's a manual for change, but it actually is it really dives deep about personalities and emotions, and how to actually filter through these. Now, just so you know, I'm not reading this for myself. I'm actually reading this for one of my clients, because I'm trying to look for an angle for her. And so this is the stuff that I've got to do as the coach. Right?
Got it. Nice. I like that. So, it's funny. I've been challenging people to read the book Atlas Shrugged. I really believe what's happening in society today, if you read the book, it's kind of eerie on what Ayn Rand talks about and how it's almost becoming a reality a little bit right now. But the problem is it's 1,100 pages.
It's massive.
And it's massive, but it's an unbelievable read. So, well, Mary, I want to thank you for your time. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, they know they need help commercializing their personal brand, what is the best and easiest way to get a hold of you?
LinkedIn, Mary Henderson Coaching. Just look for me with a pink circle around my face, or my website, maryhendersoncoaching.com, or just send me an email, mary@maryhendersoncoaching.com. Pretty easy.
That's awesome. Mary, once again, thank you for your time.
Thanks,
and
Andy.
If you're listening out there and you are finding these podcast episodes to be extremely valuable, please do me a favor, go subscribe, give it a 5-star rating. And if you know anybody that would find this content impactful, please do me a favor and share it with them. I'd be super grateful. And last but certainly not least, when confidence and clarity collides, you know what happens. Action happens. Go make it happen today.
Thanks, Andy.